Thank you very much. Well, tonight is a very special kind of show, you know, and you've all heard about the game called word association, which means that sometimes somebody mentions a word and they say, when you hear that word, what is the thing that comes immediately to your mind, you know? So maybe somebody can talk about money and right away you say car. Or somebody can say disease and you say sickness, something, word association. And I'm talking like this because one of the things that when you talk about word association is when you hear the word child, you probably say play or toy. Something like that for a child. But I'm telling you, one thing you will never expect when you hear the word child is cancer. So this evening, we're going to be talking about child cancer. As old as I am, I'm embarrassed to say that I was very ignorant that cancer does affect children. And when I first heard about child cancer, I was shocked to say, cancer. Yes, it does. The thing is that once it's detected early, there's a chance that the child can be saved. I'm going to be talking to this gentleman right now, and he lost his child from child cancer. And he's now an advocate. He's a parent who has lost a child through child cancer, and he now advocates on creating awareness and how we can do to help reduce or even, if possible, eradicate the plague of child cancer. So Dr. Aveh is here with us. He's a lecturer at GIMPA. He's a chartered accountant, and he teaches strategic management and everything else. But let's welcome Dr. Aveh. Put your hands together, and let's welcome Dr. Aveh. Doc, welcome to the show, man. Here, there. Welcome to the show, Doc.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good to have you.
Yes.
And I've been always looking for the opportunity where I can host you, and because you're a parent who has lost a child through child cancer. Even before we get into the other areas, can you tell us a little bit about what you had to go through when you discovered that your child had cancer, and other parents listening, what they can learn from?
Thank you very much. I think that if I had known some of the early warning signs of cancer, probably wouldn't have gotten to where we are now. But at a very tender age, I think my son was about 4 then. 4 years, yes. And I was just taking him to school early in the morning, and I detected that he had a swelling on the neck. And we thought it was just one of those things. And I took him to the hospital that morning anyway. And we were told that it was viral and that it would disappear in no time. But they detained him.
So even at the hospital, it wasn't detected?
It wasn't detected. It's one of the clinics in town, in Tema. So they decided to detain him. It wasn't going. It was still there, and it was rather increasing in size. And so they decided to ask us to go to one of these big hospitals in town. So we went. And then we started with the treatment. They never told us anything like cancer or whatever.
What were they treating it for?
Well, I don't know what they were doing, but they were just doing the normal treatment on, and it took us, I think, about a year plus.
Wow.
And we saw him deteriorating by the day.
Was it the swelling getting bigger? And
yeah, the swelling went down, and yet, you know, all kinds of things. He'll be sick today, he'll be up tomorrow, and that kind of thing. So on and on and on. Then somewhere along the line, somebody asked us to seek a second opinion from a doctor in Tema. So we did that, and he took his blood samples and then asked us to go and do some tests in one of these, I think, med lab. And then they took the sample to South Africa, and they came back with bombshell.
Wow.
That
came back and said it was cancer?
Yes, and that we need to go to the big hospital, Kolebu. So we went to Kolebu, and then we started with the treatment.
So when you saw this lump and you started, how long was it before you got this final test that it was cancer? How long had it taken?
Oh, about a year plus.
Wow.
And it was on and on, on and on. You know, we go, they do the test, and then they tell us it is this, it is that, it is that. And that they had to do a biopsy. Eventually, the biopsy was done. By then, we had already gotten the tests, the results from South Africa that it was cancer.
So how that must have been very heavy on you. And
You have no idea,
Yeah.
you know, when the word cancer itself, you know, when you hear that, what it connotes is no hope, death, you know. But we were asked to go to Kolebu, and we went, and we started with the treatment. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It was a very difficult thing. By then, my wife was also pregnant, and so I had to be with my son at the hospital, go to work in the morning, sleep there on and off, and that kind of thing.
So at the time, sorry to cut you, at the time that you detected it and they started the treatment at the Kolebu, were they signs that they could treat it there, or they were just at that point realizing it had gone on too late?
Well, that is what the doctors normally do. They will give you hope that it's treatable and that you could get the cure. So we're also confident that it will work. So if you're a boy, if you're a child, boy child, you will need to do this treatment for 3 years. The chemotherapy, you need to go through it for 3 years. Yes. And a girl is 2.5. And the initial stages, you know, involves a long period of hospitalization where you do all kinds of things, the chemotherapy, you know, all kinds of drugs would have to push down you. And so we went through that. And then along the line, we were told that he was out of danger and that he was okay.
Wow.
So he responded very well. So we came home. And not long after, it started again, and then we're told that it was a relapse, and that was the most difficult aspect, where we're told that if it is a relapse, then the only way he could survive is to go and have what we call a bone marrow transplant.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had to go to South Africa. And you know what it means. It comes with a lot of, you know, financial. So we went to South Africa, and it became our second home. Go to South Africa, come, and then that kind of thing. And they were looking for a match.
Wow.
You know, that which would.
Match, yeah.
And that was also a very difficult thing to do. And eventually, what they got wasn't 100% match.
But they found some match?
They found some match eventually, after over a year. And we had to accept it like that, because that was the only way he could.
So you went through the bone marrow transplant?
Yes, we went through the bone marrow transplant, and that I wouldn't want to recount. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And when they came to their wits' end, they realized that there was nothing they could do. Wow. We had to come to Ghana. We came to Ghana, and on the third day he passed.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, at the age of 9.
At the age of 9?
Yes.
Wow.
So we had to endure that for 5 good years. Yes. And the many things we went through is
that must have been extremely tough.
Very tough. Very tough. And when my book is out, you'll be the first person to...
Oh, you have a book on that now?
Yes, it's almost out.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, you definitely,
Yes, an experience with childhood cancer.
Wow.
Yes.
That's the title of the book?
That's the title of the book.
My experience with child cancer.
An experience with childhood
Okay.
cancer. Yeah.
Okay. Doctor, so for parents that are listening, because you mentioned something when you said earlier that if you had known,
yes,
you know, part of it was that the diagnosis was not right for over a year.
Yes. That is why we're saying that when you're treating your son for, say, they'll tell you malaria, for instance, and it keeps recurring, don't go to the same hospital, continuously. I mean, you need to go to Kolebu for them to do the diagnosis. That is where they can really detect whether it is something other than what they are saying. And to be treating a child for the same thing over and over again is not the best.
I see.
So Kolebu is the right place to go, and then they would be able to detect whether it is something other than what they are saying. So if we had gone to Kolebu earlier than this thing, it wouldn't have gotten to the point where it becomes acute. So he was diagnosed with what we call acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Yes. Yes.
So for parents that are listening now, and not to send all of you into panic or anything, but what are some of the signs that can advise them that we need to take a second look at this?
Yeah, we have what we call the Siluan sign. That is Siluan. Repeated symptoms, the S for the symptoms. Today he's up, tomorrow down, and that kind of thing. You don't have to wait. Go to Kolebu. And then the I is for the eye. If you detect something on the eye, like what's the eye of a cat, something like that, you don't need to wait any longer. The L is for the lumps.
The lumps.
That which I saw.
Okay.
The L is for the lumps. So when you find lumps in any part of the body.
Any part of the body.
Yeah, the glands and things like that. So, and then X, the A, the U is for vomiting and that kind of thing. And then if he has aches in any part of the body repeatedly and things like that. And then the N is for, I think, neurological something, If the person is not working properly, if the child is not working properly, the gait is not proper. Yeah, these are some of the signs. We call it the St. Siluan signs, Siluan.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to go to college.
So any of these signs, at least go for a second opinion.
At least. These are the early signs that you could use to detect whether, yes.
And chances are when you go and it's very, very early detected.
If the detection is early, you have a better chance of survival.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that is the difficulty we have in this country. People are not, most of the hospitals, and then they are not able to detect that early enough. So by the time they get to Kolebu, they have gotten to an advanced stage where it becomes very difficult to treat. And then, yes.
And I can imagine, because, and with you, relatively, you are, of a higher income bracket. So I can imagine, like the poor people who don't even have access to good, and I can imagine the number of kids that may have it that they may probably ignore.
You see, this can happen to anybody at all. It doesn't matter your standing in the society, whether you are poor or rich or something, it can happen to anybody. Childhood cancer can happen to anybody. And what we must also understand is that it is very, very expensive to treat. Very expensive to, to go through chemotherapy. Anyway, with those of us who claim to be okay, when it happened to me, you cannot, I wouldn't want to recount, but it is, you will lose everything. You will lose everything because it's very, very expensive. That is why we're advocating that the government should come to the aid of parents and children who are diagnosed with this disease, because the period for treatment is quite, 3 years. It's not easy. You have to go through it with all kinds of, and most of the drugs are not on the NHIS list, the protocol list. So parents would have to find money to buy them. And so when you get to Kolebu, for instance, you find parents coming and then leaving because they cannot afford.
Wow. So they just
leave.
Give up. Yeah.
And again, you have people who will tell you what you want to hear, and that this is not a place to treat this kind of sickness. So go to maybe a shrine or go here, go to, a prayer camp or something. But no.
And just to follow up on that, because I talked to a few of the patients at the ward,
Okay.
parents,
Yes.
and most of them said that when it started, they were at prayer camps
Yes.
and all kinds of places, because it was immediately assumed that it was a spiritual disease.
Yes.
For most of them that I spoke to, that's what they said.
That is why we've taken it upon ourselves as parents, Ghana Parents Association for Childhood Cancers, GAPAC, to create the awareness, create the awareness and tell people that when you have a situation like this, when you are confronted with a situation like this, the place to go is Kolebu. And you don't need to look anywhere elsewhere. And that is the place to treat this kind of disease. If you don't know, you allude it to all kinds of things, yes. But you need to be told that it is something that happens to children. All right. It is not a curse. It is not how will I put
Spiritual
it?
warfare.
Spiritual or whatever, and that you need to come to Kolebu for them to treat your child.
And I heard they have one other center at the Okonfanochi Hospital.
Yes, Konfanochi and Kumasi. Yes.
From your experience as a parent, how loaded or overloaded is the system? Is it able to, the few that are diagnosed, we have a...
You see, the difficulty is this. We don't have many pediatric oncologists. What I know is that currently we have only two, only two at Kolebu, pediatric oncologists. Professor Rena and one other lady, and she would be talking about the courses pretty shortly. And so we need, as it were, to have this awareness thing created for people to know that when you have a situation like this, Kolebu is where you have to go to. That is why we've taken it upon ourselves to do to create the awareness.
Create the awareness, yeah.
And that's every year in September, we do what we call the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, where we distribute flyers, leaflets. We do discussions on the radio, television. Now, what we have to do now is to go to the hinterlands, especially, where people are not aware of the symptoms like I've just mentioned. So we can create the awareness. Again, as part of our work is the advocacy thing, where we're trying to impress upon our government to alleviate the suffering of parents and children by putting some of the
drugs
on the NHIS.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I know when I spoke to some of the parents, well, most of the parents, almost all of them complained about the expense and how
the cost.
if had been on NHIS,
Yes.
it would have,
Yes.
There are those who just are so intimidated by how much they have to pay and
Yes.
just like you said, may just even walk away.
You see, our contention is simply this, that if we're treating adults for some forms of cancer, the children who we say are the future leaders, if they have this cancer, we say we cannot treat it, we cannot pay for it.
But
that is a
adults,
bit of
types of adult cancer are on the list.
yes, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's why we're trying to say that they should try and meet parents and children with this disease,
Okay, okay. I also know that the parents, is it GAPAC?
GAPAC,
The-
Ghana
yeah.
Parents Association for Childhood
You're
Cancers.
also trying to build like a hostel
Yes.
on Kolebu,
Yes.
so that when people come with their children,
Yes.
they have a place to stay,
Yes.
And I want you to talk a little bit about that so that maybe we can put the word out for philanthropists who may want to come in and assist financially.
Thank you. Let's consider a scenario like this. You've been referred from, say, Wa or from my village somewhere to Accra, Kolebu, to come and treat your child. You don't have any relative in Accra. You have nowhere to lay your head. there is a mother's hostel, but it's very small. And it's for all the diseases that they bring there. But with childhood cancer, you need special place to, for your child. Because when you start the chemotherapy, your immunity level and everything goes down. And you need to be isolated somewhat. So we approached the management of Kolebu, and they gave us a land within Kolebu to put up a structure where parents and who are on the ward with their children could go and rest probably in the evening, come back in the morning refreshed. If you have to be commuting over a long distance to Kolebu every day, that is another thing altogether, apart from the stress that you're already going through. So Kolebu has given us the land. We've done all the structural drawings and whatever. What we need now is for people out there to help us to bring this structure up, and that's to alleviate the sufferings of children and parents who don't have anywhere to lay their head. Other countries are doing it. So we saw it in other countries and we decided that we could replicate the same thing here. And that is what we're trying to do now. And
so the land has been secured.
The drawings,
the drawings are all done.
But what is left is the fund.
The funding to move it.
Yes.
So folks that are watching, this is really, really a good time to appeal to your hearts, Kitwa Bienswa, and those big companies, anybody, to come to the aid, because child cancer, as you've heard, is real. And we're going to be talking to, in a few minutes, we're going to be talking to Dr. Lorna Rayner, from Kolebu. She hails the child oncology, pediatric
oncology.
And she also give us more information on what we can do and what we need to do to help. But right now, we just wanted to take an opportunity to talk to Dr. Aveh, who's a parent of a child who went through child cancer, and unfortunately, the worst did happen. And you've heard him, and I'm hoping that we all become more and more aware of the symptoms, so that with early detection, the child has a chance. And when Dr. Rayner comes, she's going to tell us more about, the chances that any child that is detected early can be helped. So, Dr. Aveh, thank you very much.
Yes.
I know you have to head for a lecture.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you came and giving us all the information. I'll be talking to Dr. Lorna, so I'll find out what number people can call if they need to.
She's Professor Rayner.
Professor Rayner, okay. Professor Rayner, and she'll give us a number that we can reach. But thank you so much.
I'm very grateful.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So put your hands together again for Dr. Aveh. All right. Okay. And as Dr. Aveh leaves, because he has a lecture and he's going for class, we're going to invite Professor Rayner to come and join us. And we'll do that right after this commercial break. Stick around, we'll be right back.